Hello to our built-in audience. We are the Cinema Joes, as you probably know. I am Justin. I'm here with my two buddies, Casey and Noah.
Hello.
And we are now on our fourth movie in the alternative superhero films marathon.
Going much slower than we intended, but we're making
Yeah.
headway.
Yep, we're getting there. We're now more than halfway through, believe it or not. We just saw Mystery Men, which is a 1999 film directed by Kinka Usher, which I believe is the only film he ever directed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this film is about a group of superheroes. They're not called the Mystery Men. That's kind of comes in as a joke at the end, but it's a ragtag group of would-be superheroes, and they're kind of what you'd call they're the people on the bench. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'd say they might not even be on the bench. I don't think they even made the team when it comes to being superheroes. You have such people as the Blue Raja, whose power is throwing forks.
Silverware.
Silverware. But only the silverware he can get from his mom because he lives at home.
He throws spoons sometimes. Never knives,
sometimes he throws a spoon. And then you have the Shoveler, and his power is shoveling and hitting people with a shovel. This gives you some idea of the kinds of heroes that we're dealing with. We're not necessarily dealing with the A-list here. We might not be even dealing with the D-list here. But the fact is, these are people, they do want to do good. And I guess because we have these kind of, reject superheroes, do you guys think that there's maybe any kind of, do you think this film is trying to make any interesting commentary about superheroes or superhero teams? Or is this just an excuse to put a bunch of morons on the same screen?
I'm going to have to go with the latter.
Yeah.
I got nothing more to say on that.
I have to say, this is probably my least favorite out of the ones we've done, mostly because this was the first time where, as opposed to Swamp Thing or Darkman or The Crow, where I really got a sense for, okay, I get what they're trying to do, even if they don't always pull it off. I got a sense for what the directors wanted to do with the world and the characters. With this one, the whole time I was thinking, if, Edgar Wright was doing this, and it just had a little bit more visual flair, or if the editing was just a little bit quicker and there was just a bit more energy, this would be rolling on the ground hilarious. But there were a lot of moments, a lot of the pace as a whole kind of lagged for me a lot and dampened a lot of the laughs that I did have. So that was my initial reaction to the movie. I was like,
and you know what? That's a great point. Like, the energy,
yeah,
I didn't see that going through it, but you're absolutely right. I think the script is fine. I think the script is good. It's got something to work with, but the energy, as you're saying, was too low. If they bumped up those editing scene changes or whatever, or did something to just up the energy, you're right, it would have been significantly better. And that said, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was fantastic. It definitely did lag a little bit, but that kind of not subverting so much as the Dr. Horribleness of it, kind of just turning the superhero stuff on its head. I love that kind of that genre.
And it was interesting that they really did stick with killing off the actual hero.
Yeah.
And having it be the good guys, and having it be no bullshitty trick to make it go away. No, actually killed him. He is gone. That scene alone was all right, there's some balls here. They're going out on a limb on this, because most superhero movies, even low budget ones, would not take that risk.
And
so there were moments like that I did like.
I think also the fact that it happens to this character who's very, very full of himself. He is Captain Amazing. He's so effective that he basically has no more bad guys to deal with. There's no one can take a chance against him. And, I think there is maybe a little bit of commentary with that character. I mean, he comes in, his uniform it looks almost like
a race car.
Not car racer? Yeah. Exactly. Because it's just him in this suit and then all these logos.
Yeah.
And, he's very much concerned about his sponsors, which I don't know, that might be, maybe a little dig at, the commercialization of superheroes. But it's interesting to me because
the idea is self.
Yeah, his goals are purely selfish.
Becoming a slave to the image over what drove you to get that image in the first place.
Yeah, and he also they kind of make a joke about it, but one of the reasons why he is so effective is because of how rich he is. billions. Like he's a billionaire. And it's funny because like that made me think a little bit of. I wonder. I know I could be reaching a little bit here, but I wondered if that was maybe a little dig at Batman because Batman.
Or Iron Man. I mean, a lot of.
A ton of disposable income.
Yeah.
He's an heir basically to his family's fortune.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is, he has the time, he has the energy to. Now, I don't know. Like I said, I could be reaching a little bit with that, but
I don't think you are.
I think there's a little bit of a dig there.
No, a lot of people have noticed that before. Movie Bob tackled this in his episode dealing with the idea of a Batman versus Superman movie and pointed out, like, the big reasons people give for like why Batman is just the best superhero is, he's always paired. Well, that's because he has enough money to afford any technology in the world.
Yeah. It's not even just technology. In Batman's defense, it's clever. A lot of times, it's cleverness or the willingness to take into consideration all these contingency plans.
Yes, but the fact that he can actually have some sort of gadget or something in place for all those contingency plans.
Oh yeah.
A question of having business connections, having his own wealth of resources.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think Justin is taking a shot in the dark here, and I don't think
to draw it specifically to Batman though is a little bit of a stretch. Now to draw a connection with some other type of wealthy millionaire, whatever.
Iron Man.
Well, I'm not even talking about, like, I don't feel like they're pointing at any specific superhero. It might be a jab at, people who have, all that money and all that time, some kind of statement with that. But to draw a parallel to a specific character based on one thing that doesn't, that isn't his sole trait is stretching it. I mean, I'm not saying it's not the case, but I didn't see any other reasons to see that parallel.
Yeah, the only reason I made it strictly with what he was saying, with the idea of having all this wealth and all these and all these resources at your disposal. I guess that's why I was making that connection.
You know what I'd like to point out though? We're talking about what was it? Captain Awesome?
Captain Amazing.
Captain Amazing.
Yeah.
And going back to the villain from The Crow, talking about how greed is amateurish. You should do it just for the sake of doing it. In this case, doing good. In his case, doing evil. So that's great, and I think that's actually, looking through that lens is something really interesting to see this movie through, because you got Captain Amazing doing it for greed, and then these other guys who are presumably, doing it at the cost of their family, at the cost of having a day job. So
are
that's interesting.
Definitely risking their livelihood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out, because you're right. They have much more to put on the line than Captain Amazing does. It's funny because I think there's something, the fact that you have this group of heroes and because they're not, their powers alone are enough to make you kind of say, I don't know about this. I think you may want to, reconsider the choice you've made in your life. But there is something, there does seem to be something in them that is genuine in their pursuit of being a hero. And actually, I think you said it especially in William H. Macy's character, the Shoveler. He may be my favorite in this because he's so understated, but he just seems to hit like the right note in every scene. He has a great conversation with his wife where he says, look, I know you're going to kill me. I know you're going to be really angry at me, but I have to do this.
That's a risk I'm going to have to take. On the other hand, my least favorite character was Ben Stiller's character. I found him I understand, I understand what they were going for. He was a prideful guy who got wrapped up in his ego, and he just needed something to make him realize, but he was so annoying the entire film.
Ben Stiller has had better performances in better movies.
Yeah, and if we get into kind of what you were saying before, Noah, about how this is our first overt comedy, I think that's fair to say. I'm not saying it's a good comedy necessarily, but it's a comedy.
It is clearly meant to play this up for laughs.
Yeah, but you get, like you were saying, Casey, with Ben Stiller, I didn't hate him here. I thought he was a lot more tolerable than I've seen him in some other movies, but he is trying way too hard to play this character. I mean, to be fair, his character is Mr. Furious, but it gets to the point where he starts freaking out again, and there's going to be no payoff, and it just ends up being you're watching Ben Stiller on the screen having a seizure of his own.
You think that's Stiller's fault, or I mean, I guess it might be on him and the direction and the writing.
Yeah.
No, it's just hard to say. Like, I'm really not sure. I feel like he's.
I thought he did the best with what he was given. He just wasn't given a lot.
Movies that I've seen where, because I think my favorite Ben Stiller performances are Secret Life of Walter Mitty and Night at the Museum, but those are both much more underplayed performances than he usually gives. They're a far cry from Zoolander, and this is not as like over the top as Zoolander. It's like halfway there, but it's still much more like trying to do certain things with the character that don't always work. Also, speaking of weak female characters, no reason for that romantic subplot.
It was important for his character development, but beyond that, I don't know if it was necessary.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, Bowling Ball Girl, holy crap!
The bowler. Yeah, Janine Garofalo as the.
She was my favorite.
I liked her too. There's one thing. Okay, the thing I do like about her, she's, I would say, inarguably the most competent of the group.
Yeah.
I don't know. The shoveler was aware of their ineffectiveness. So in that sense, he was pretty competent.
I guess I mean in terms of the actual powers. I mean, he's not having a whole lot of luck, at least initially. He does have that great scene later on, which is maybe one of my favorite scenes in the movie. But the one thing about her that, and you guys chime in, tell me what you think of this, but her weapon is a bowling ball, but it's a bowling ball possessed by the spirit of her father, who was killed in a freak elevator accident. By Eddie Izzard, which, man, that I had no idea Eddie Izzard was going to be in this movie.
I didn't recognize him. I watched him with my girlfriend, and he said, and she said, is that Eddie Izzard? And I'm like, no, definitely not.
Yeah, right? You're like, no, why would he be in this? So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but yeah, you have.
Incidentally, he actually looks good as a man. Just saying.
I started getting a sense like it's almost like she's doing this, and it's almost like more her father. She's kind of like she lets it go, but then it's like her father's doing all the dirty work. And it ends up being kind of like, all right, does she have the powers, or is it just she carries the bowling ball, which has
she's the vessel for the revenge?
I don't know. Because there's the one scene where they're wrecking Casanova Frankenstein's car, which is
you couldn't say that with a straight face. You're like
that's a really
Casanova Frankenstein.
And then just picturing that scene to me doesn't work very well, and I think it is because Kinka Usher is not as good a director as you need for that scene to really make it work. Like you're saying, Noah, it lags. It goes on far longer than it should.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they should not have been killed at
really.
You have that scene, and then she throws the bowling ball, it smashes windows, it returns to her, and then she decides to run away with the rest of them. And it's very much like, it's really awkward too. It's a really awkwardly staged. Like you're not quite sure why she's running away. I mean, they are supposed to get out of there, at least that's what the Blue Raja keeps saying, but you're not really sure why she didn't finish the job.
Yeah. Going back to Casanova Frankenstein, speaking of phoning it in, oh my God, Jeffrey Rush, you are an Oscar winner.
Yeah.
Also, you're Jeffrey Rush. As soon as I heard his first lines and I saw the outline of the nose through the shot, I was like, oh God, no.
In what sense? Do you think he did poorly, or?
He was so phoning it in. He was
What do you mean by that, though? Because
his phoning it in is pretty good then, because I've seen people phone it in.
When I think phoning in, I think, for example, I just watched Argo. I think of Ben Affleck phoning it in as the main character.
Or Odin in Thor. What the hell is that guy's name now?
Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Hopkins, yeah. Like, that's phoning it in.
Yeah. I think someone who's not trying very hard.
Exactly.
And he's trying. He's definitely trying here. I don't know if he succeeds, but I think he's going for something, at least.
It's, if they'd done away with the accent was so horribly faked.
I like Rush's performance in this film, to be honest. I thought it was very cartoonish. It was cartoonish, and he's successfully made it cartoonish.
Yeah. And I'll also defend the accent a little bit, because you see that with the Blue Raja. It's clearly an affectation, and then you hear him talking normally to his mother. So I wonder if that's kind of what we're getting with Casanova Frankenstein as well.
Maybe.
I can't say it's like really funny necessarily, if that's what they're going for.
Also,
but I don't feel like most of the humor in this movie works. So
I have to say,
no surprise.
I have to say, something that I think should have worked better than it did, I do love the idea of 70s themed villains.
Yes.
And I like when they're like ready to kill him, ready, and they do the pose.
Yeah.
The way they draw their guns, they have to do the...
Like, they had just... It was one of those things where they're like, okay, they needed to go all the way with that. They needed to just go all out and make these villains, like, insanely over-the-top 70 style. And if they'd done that, like, I would have laughed a lot harder. As it was, I'm like, okay, this is amusing. This is interesting. I like this, but you have to make me laugh more. Also, were any of you thrown for a loop when Michael Bay showed up on screen?
I knew he was gonna be in it.
I did
But
not.
it was straight, like, I didn't know he was gonna have any lines.
Where was Michael Bay?
Remember the frat boys? That frat boy gang?
Oh, yeah.
The one who asks
He's the
about
guy who says, "Can we take the brewskis?"
Oh, wow. I don't...
the Brewskis.
Michael Bay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How appropriate. How appropriate.
One of the things we can also talk about a little bit is the concept of a team. This is a pretty new thing, at least in this marathon. And
That's true.
I guess
This is the first time, yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, I felt like there were some pretty effective payoffs toward the end in terms of their powers. You're kind of like, there's some people you're like, how are they ever going to use this person's power? And they find a way. I mean, the scene with Invisible Boy, where he finally is able to do something, is, I think, that scene works pretty well. And it also is kind of funny because it's like, because he's coming up to that, I don't know what you call it, like that energy beam thing.
Laser detector.
Yeah, which is, I guess,
Disintegrator.
Which is not, non-human operational.
Right.
But they still... There's a little bit of the team aspect where it's like they know if they look at him, because his power is he's only invisible when no one's looking, which is pretty funny, I have to say, in a sense.
Conceptually,
They know that because they know even if they are looking at him, even though the thing can't see him, he's still going to be visible because they're looking. So it's like the Blue Raja actually does something where he's like, all right, everyone turn around. And you have, I think that moment works pretty well because it does show a little bit of the team, and it also shows that, these people might have ridiculous powers, but somehow we found a way to incorporate them.
And also, I like the fact that as he was walking up towards it, I legitimately did not know if he was going to actually turn invisible or just get his ass fried.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, maybe he's actually going to die now. But no, he doesn't. And of course, he make it afterwards. No reason for his clothes to fall off.
Well, he does, I think he says something about that earlier, that he has to be naked when it happens.
Maybe he goes incorporeal and not invisible.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know the difference.
But if he's incorporeal, how can he throw the switch?
Didn't...
Logic!
Good point.
He does throw the switch. Yep. Which is, of course, conveniently on the side.
Yeah, right?
There's no reason for it to be there. We could go on and on about how this guy's, like, Casanova Frank is supposedly a genius, and yet they break in with he has the worst security in the world. I mean, the disco guys are so... He can't invent something that's gonna, keep people from entering the mansion. No, it's pretty poor in that, and I think that's a laziness just on the part of the film, honestly.
I like the idea of the weapons inventor whose big thing is being non-lethal.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty creative.
Yeah, that works for me too. And it's funny because at one point they're making fun of the disco guys. Well, for one thing, because they have guns, but also because what do guns have to do with disco? I thought that was pretty fun. But then, they do have some help, I'd say a lot of help, from just, not really conventional weapons, but weapons. They're able to incorporate that, which is a little bit of a, when do you see a superhero with a gun or anything like that, even if it's not lethal.
And again, like, some of the ideas for weapons are pretty creative, like tornado and hand, blame gun.
Flamethrower.
The flamethrower.
By the way, this is a total tangent, but did you guys notice who one of the guys who shoot each other after they fire the flamethrower at them? Do you guys notice who one of the criminals was?
No.
CeeLo Green.
Oh, I didn't recognize him.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I think he has a line. I don't remember what it is, but yeah.
They all had a line. When they were at the table, they were all rhyming.
Yeah. it's interesting because like I said, you do see them actually use their powers in some way, but then you also do have technology helping them out. So in some ways, they are kind of learning from, they're kind of relying on technology, not dissimilar to what Captain Amazing has been doing with his wealth and power.
Although we only really see Captain Amazing use a jetpack. Like, we don't really see him use any other technology. It was jetpack and he punched people. He did? What else did he use?
I thought he had something else. Didn't he have something like to detect?
I'm not sure.
I thought he had something to detect what Casanova Frankenstein had, or maybe that was just his intuition. Maybe
I was led to believe that was just because they knew they'd been doing this dance for a long time, so he knew what to expect.
Yeah, you might be right.
That's how I interpreted that scene.
Well, I guess in any case, it's like I said, it's just the corporation of technology to help them out, in addition to their so-called powers.
Yeah, let's talk about Sphinx for a second. Like, what was that guy all about? Well, first of all, what was his power? Like, the only thing we ever see him do is split the guns in half. Is that it? Like, is that his power? Is that all he does?
That's supposed to be his power, but then he doesn't use it at all when they
ever again.
It doesn't, like, it never comes back.
Again, more laziness on the part of the film, I think.
Probably. Because he could have probably walked in there by himself and,
Yeah, I mean, that, like, at least would have been a huge help. I mean, they have to use that one thing, like the magnet on there that attracts all the guns.
Yeah.
But, that's a weird inconsistency. I got the sense he was just kind of there, at least, like, before that, like, he was there kind of to deliver platitudes and, keep...
And
most of the platitudes like worked on the chiasmus thing where you like reverse the word.
As Ben Stiller said, they were very formulaic.
Yeah.
I do like the one line. I do like the one line. He's like, he turns to Ben Stiller after he's like, "You must control your rage, or your rage is going to control you." And he just stares at him. He's like, "No."
That's what you were going to say. That's what you were going to say, wasn't it? Not necessarily. Yeah, that was funny.
That was favorite line of mine in the movie. Whatever the hell his name was, the fart guy, who I did not care for him at all.
The spleen, yeah.
I did not care for him at all. But there's one great line where he's hitting on the bowler, and she just says, "Not enough beer in the world."
Yeah.
And he just shrinks away. Like he gets it all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. All right, you were gonna say something, Justin?
It's funny because I found these characters overall quite likable, and I think that's what got me through a lot of the film because
absolutely.
I feel like it was lacking in so many other things that you want to see in a film of this type, like like consistent humor. I think there's like a laugh here or there. There's some funny stuff. There's some funny concepts, but it's very inconsistent. But
which is why I agree that, like, if they just picked up the pace a bit more, like, it could have been a lot funnier.
Yeah, and the thing that I think I liked about the team was I just love the earnestness and the need to do good, I'll even say with the spleen. In
the spleen's case, I didn't feel like he was doing it for the sake of doing good, like the main three were. He was doing it because he wanted someone to like him. Like that's how I got that. He just wanted to be accepted, so he wanted to help them out.
I maybe at first, but I think as especially when they start, like, he and Invisible Boy kind of team together at one point. I didn't necessarily like the concept of the character was okay. I felt like it was executed in the way you would expect. There was nothing really surprising about it.
Yeah, there's no surprises there. No surprises.
Also,
what would have been really funny? If he had been like a very conventionally attractive, like, jock type, and then had like that kind of speaking voice and that kind of power, that would have. Yeah. I think that would have gone for some much bigger laughs. Because
then you have the incongruity.
You would see him walk in, and you would not expect him to be like that.
Instead, we have Paul Rubens looking disgusting. I mean, more disgusting than he usually looks.
Yeah, and that's like that was the thing about that character and a couple of the other characters, like just no surprises.
Yeah.
No surprises in that character whatsoever. Like, again, like, if it had been like
with the exception of the bowler, I have to say, like, she was the only one with any real depth or backstory. I mean, the spleen had a backstory, but it was so one-dimensional I don't even get it.
Yeah, it's not. Exactly.
I think the shovel actually had a good, not a backstory, but you had a good context for what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I like the scene where he goes home and it's the house is completely pink, and just from that you're like, okay, something's a little off here, and then you see kind of the way you can see who wears the pants in the relationship with him and his wife, but there's just, I don't know, there's something about, would I say this is Macy's greatest role? No, of course not.
That'd be embarrassing.
That would be embarrassing, and it would be a disservice to William H. Macy. But there's just something he brings to this role that I don't know if it's. I get the sense he's bringing a lot more to the role than was on the page.
I could see it, and I think what you're looking
and I
for
think
is earnestness and
Yeah.
like maybe humility, for lack of a better word.
He has a speech where he rallies the team together. I mean, he recognizes when he needs to take responsibility, and I like that contrast because you get the sense at first he's like he lets everyone step all over him, and he kind of over the course of the film decides he puts his foot down, and he, like I mentioned earlier, he does have a really nice scene where he's beating up all the disco henchmen, and the different ways they come up with for him to incorporate the shovel, I thought that worked, and it was very satisfying because you did want to see him finally be competent.
Yeah.
Because he really did. He really was genuine in his desire to, as cliche as it is, save the world. So.
One of the things I think we should talk about more is the death of Captain Awesome.
Captain.
I wasn't
or Captain Amazing, or whatever his name is.
I wasn't expecting it to happen.
But at the hands of one of our heroes. I mean, like.
Yeah.
What can you say about that? What is that?
Well,
what is that supposed to be?
I'm trying to remember that scene, but from what I remember, Captain Amazing isn't being very clear.
Yeah.
There's really, I'd say both parties are. You get the sense both parties are not quite competent.
Guiltless.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Competent.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't know the technology, they don't know what they're doing, but at the same time, he obviously doesn't know either. Just screaming at them to do something.
But the Boulder's trying to say, wait, hold on, there's something wrong here. There's definitely something wrong here. We have to re-establish what's going on. Or Ben Stiller's like, reset button? Let's just do this over. But then you have the other guy, Blue Raja, who's like, no, listen to this captain guy. He knows what he's talking about. And he just comes over and flips the switch and kills him. So, I mean, I guess that it shows the captain's overconfidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His overconfidence kills him, I guess, is what that was really getting at.
I mean, I'm trying to remember the scene, but I got the sense like he was kind of. Am I incorrect in remembering that he's kind of flustered? The Captain Amazing was kind of flustered in the situation, like he doesn't know. Are you maybe saying that he's overconfident in the fact that even though he's feeling flustered, he feels like nothing can befall him because of who he is?
Yes, I do very much so. Yeah, because he's flustered, like you're saying, and the bowler is saying, "Hold on, no, you made a mistake. You said something other than what you meant to say." But he couldn't fathom that
he was trying to diffuse the situation. She's the most logical and reasonable in that moment.
Yeah,
and it is kind of funny, of course, being the lone woman that no one pays attention to her.
So we're over 30 minutes. Is there anything else you guys want to add, or should we wrap it up?
Like I said, my piece.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
I guess
probably my least favorite of the ones we've seen so far, but again, like, not bad. Interesting ideas, good moments.
Yeah, my thoughts on it was that it's enjoyable to watch. Like if you're, I don't know, hanging out with a group of friends and you're just looking for something to do, it's enjoyable. But it could definitely use a lot more energy, a lot quicker pacing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I wasn't bored necessarily. I haven't really been bored with any of the movies we've watched, but I think the likability of the leads really helped this film a little bit, but it wasn't enough for me to say, oh yeah, this is a good comedy, because it really isn't. There's so many lines that just like fall flat. There's other parts where you're like, you wonder what the heck the joke was even supposed to be, like what they were even going for, and this being an overt con, I think needed to have more laughs, and it could have stood to maybe say a little bit more about superheroes and why it is, the fact that these are all losers and how they fit into the world of superheroes. I think, I don't know what the situation was like on set, but I got the sense there were a lot of competing people, and they really couldn't nail down what they wanted this movie to be.
Yeah, like they're all kind of trying to one-up each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
All right, well, we are the Cinema Joes. Check out our last videos for the alternative superhero marathon. Check out our last videos and check out. We got 2 more coming up. We got Super from 2010 and what's the other one?
Well, we have Unbreakable. Yeah.
Unbreakable from 2000 and Super from 2010.
That's Shyamalan's second film, right?
Yeah.
I'm quite looking forward to that.
So stay tuned, guys, and have a good one.